Have you ever woken up to find that the person you once felt so deeply connected to now seems to view you as little more than a convenience? This was a reality that hit me hard one morning, as I realized that my wife, Lisa, and I had transitioned from passionate partners to co-parents and providers, with little else binding us together. I thought we were building a life together, but instead, I came to see that I had become someone who merely facilitated our family's needs, rather than someone with whom Lisa shared a loving bond. My name is James, and for a significant portion of my life, I believed I had everything figured out. Lisa and I were high school sweethearts, married at a young age, and together we constructed a life filled with dreams and ambitions. We welcomed 2 beautiful children into our world, and while we weren't wealthy, we were comfortable and content. In the early days, Lisa was affectionate and loving. We would share our dreams, plans, and aspirations for the future. I genuinely believed that love would always be the foundation of our family, and that we would find our way back to each other, no matter the challenges we faced. However, I was gravely mistaken. Love, I learned, is not just a product of shared history. It requires continuous effort and nurturing. When that effort begins to wane, the past can lose its significance. Initially, I dismissed the growing emotional distance between us as a temporary rough patch, attributing to the exhausting demands of parenting. But as time went on, I noticed the affection we once shared, the meaningful conversations, and those moments when we truly saw each other beyond our roles as parents began to fade away. At night, when I sought closeness, Lisa was always too tired or distracted. I understood that parenting is a demanding task, so I tried to give her space, hoping that this was just a phase and that things would eventually improve. Instead, the distance only deepened, becoming the new normal in our relationship. Even during quiet evenings after the kids were asleep, when there was nothing specifically draining her energy, Lisa remained uninterested in connecting with me. My attempts to bridge the gap were often met with weary sighs and dismissive excuses. When I finally mustered the courage to broach the topic, hoping for an open and honest conversation, she barely looked up from her phone and simply stated, "We have kids now," as if that comment alone justified the absence of intimacy and romance in our lives. Our discussions had devolved into mundane exchanges about the children's school schedules, medical appointments, and grocery lists, leaving little room for the emotional connection that once defined our partnership. In an effort to rekindle our relationship, I suggested therapy, convinced that a professional could help us navigate the difficult conversations we had been avoiding. However, her reaction was immediate and defensive, as if I had insulted her. She insisted that nothing was wrong and accused me of overreacting to a situation that she believed was perfectly fine. That response struck me hard. It wasn't just the outright rejection of my suggestion, but the speed with which she dismissed it. It felt as if she didn't care to understand my feelings or why I believed therapy was necessary. She seemed comfortable with the status quo, while I was left feeling increasingly isolated and unvalued. One evening, after yet another unsuccessful attempt to connect, the truth finally dawned on me. Lisa wasn't merely busy or preoccupied. She had neglected me. I had become a convenient co-parent and provider, someone who made life easier for her, but wasn't worth any additional effort. The weight of this realization hit me hard. I understood that if this was how she perceived me, I had been wasting my time trying to be anything more than what she already saw. So I made a choice. I stopped waiting for her to acknowledge my efforts. I ceased planning date nights that would inevitably be forgotten or dismissed. I let go of the hope for the warm smiles and tender moments that had once been a part of our relationship. Instead, I accepted our new reality and communicated with Lisa only when necessary, focusing solely on parenting matters. I didn't inquire about her day or check in on her feelings any longer. I began to live for myself rather than for a one-sided marriage. I enrolled in boxing classes and picked up photography, a passion I had long neglected. I documented my fitness journey and solo adventures on social media, rediscovering joy and fulfillment in my life outside of our marriage. Initially, Lisa seemed oblivious to my transformation, but the world outside our home began to take notice. As I withdrew my efforts and redirected my focus toward myself, the change became undeniable. Women started noticing me. The attention I received on social media was a pleasant surprise, and for the first time in years, I found myself engaging back. I was happy and thriving without her, and this newfound confidence and joy seemed to radiate from me. It was then that Lisa began to feel the absence she had overlooked for so long. One night, after returning from a particularly invigorating gym session, she confronted me, questioning why other women were engaging with me online. I responded calmly, explaining that she hadn't cared when I needed her love and attention, so she had no right to be concerned about who sought my attention. I could see panic flicker in her eyes as she grasped the gravity of her oversight. In that moment, she reached for my hand, pleading to fix things, something she hadn't done in what felt like ages. But I was no longer tempted by the idea of starting over. I had given her years to love me, and now I was ready to focus solely on our children, as she had always desired. When I expressed my decision, I could see the reality hit her. She attempted to argue, offering the same tired excuses, but I recognized that pattern all too well. Finally, Lisa understood that she hadn't lost me to another woman. She had lost me due to her own neglect. The version of me that once adored her, that sought her affection and companionship, was gone. I wasn't seeking revenge or acting spitefully. I had merely accepted the role she had assigned me, and that was all I would ever be to her. Now, I urge you to consider this. If someone takes your love for granted, don't waste your energy arguing or pleading. Simply become what they perceive you to be. I transformed into the co-parent that Lisa saw me as, and everything shifted. A spouse who treats you like an obligation will inevitably regret it when you stop treating them as a priority. I spent years striving to reignite the love between us, but I learned a hard lesson. Love cannot be forced. If someone doesn't value you, no amount of effort will change that. The moment I ceased seeking her attention and accepted my role as merely a co-parent, she finally began to notice me again. I no longer waited to be loved. I focused on my children and my own happiness. By the time Lisa realized what she had lost, it was too late. She wanted back the version of me she had neglected for years. But that man no longer existed. To be honest, I now enjoy the attention I receive outside of my marriage. I am seen, respected, and valued as an individual, forging genuine connections with people who appreciate me for who I am. Unlike before, I no longer feel the need to beg for basic consideration. As for Lisa, her choices and actions no longer concern me. Whether she stays or leaves has no bearing on my life. I don't trust this sudden change in her behavior. If she needed outside validation to recognize my worth, then that speaks volumes about her feelings. Love and respect should not require external affirmation. So, I ask you to reflect on this. What is the worst that can happen? Divorce? If the only thing holding a marriage together is one person seeking love, is that truly a marriage? What would you have done in my situation? Please share your thoughts and experiences.